On the evening of Monday, January 2, 1995, 22-year-old Patrick Grant Hendrickson and his 19-year-old girlfriend, Michele Cartegena, decided to go on a dinner and movie date. They were both students at Mercer University in Macon, Georgia. They set out in Michele's new white Honda Accord, which her father had gotten her for Christmas. As they drove to the movie theater, another driver noticed a blue 1980s model Honda CRX swerving in front of Michele's car, but he didn't notice any altercation. Other witnesses reported that the couple had made it to the theater. Just before midnight, the couple decided to head to the Dames Ferry campsite at Lake Juliette to enjoy the scenic view. Lake Juliette is a 3,600-acre reservoir in Monroe County, commonly visited as a hangout and camping site. Grant and Michele arrived at the lake shortly after midnight. They parked at a small peninsula known as the Point. This is where they met foul play at the hands of a shooter who sprayed their car with bullets. Many who were by the lake around this time heard the gunshots, but the police were not called to the scene until later that morning. Grant's body was found in the car. He had suffered multiple gunshot wounds. Michele had been dragged about 40 feet away and left partially undressed. Her killer had spat on her. As fear gripped the town of Macon and university students in the area, everyone had one question: why were Grant Hendrickson and Michele Cartegena killed? Grant Hendrickson, the only child of his parents, was pursuing a degree in electrical engineering and physics at Mercer University. He played the bass guitar in a band and helped with sound in a local theater group. He was a skilled athlete who played baseball and church league softball. Grant Hendrickson had studied at Tatnall Square Academy, where he graduated as an honor student and won an academic scholarship to Mercer. Michele Cartegena was like her boyfriend in many ways. She had also excelled at Spencer High School and had ended up being valedictorian. A gifted athlete, she was the #1 singles tennis player in the school and also became captain of the softball team. Like Grant, Michele had received academic scholarships to Mercer University and Emory University. She volunteered at the Red Cross and Humane Society and joined a sorority at the university, where she planned to major in physical therapy. Michele was also the only child of her parents. Many people believed that Grant and Michele's similarities attracted them to each other. They had been dating for more than 6 months at the time of their murders and had even hinted at getting married. As far as people could tell, neither person had any questionable contacts or encounters that explained their brutal murders. The police quickly launched an investigation. 2 .23 caliber and 9mm bullets and shell casings were retrieved from the crime scene. Investigators determined that 14 rounds were fired from an AR-15 and 5 more from a 9mm Ruger. DNA was also collected from saliva found on Michele's leg. The police were able to detect tobacco in it. Witnesses said they had seen a blue CRX Honda at the parking lot in front of the lake shortly after Michele and Grant arrived around 12:30 a.m. Another couple parked near the crime scene said they had seen it speeding away shortly after they heard the gunshots. With these findings, the police began their search for the killer, a person who owned such guns and a blue CRX and whose DNA matched that found at the murder scene. A man by the name of Stephen Boyd claimed to have been at the movie theater Michele and Grant visited on the night of their murders. He said he had seen a drunken young man arguing with the couple before leaving with another man in a white pickup truck. A photo lineup was arranged, and he identified one person. He was a friend of Michele's who'd had a crush on her. This man denied being involved and provided an alibi. There was also no connection between him and the blue CRX Honda, so the police continued to investigate the case. Almost 2 years later, towards the end of 1996, Agent Randy Upton of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, GBI, decided to track purchases of AR-15 rifles in Macon between 1985 and 1995. He identified 108 people and began to invite them to provide their saliva samples and for inspection of their firearms. He eventually got to 22-year-old Andrew Allen Cook, fondly called Andy, in November that year. When questioned about the gun, Andy said he got rid of his back in April 1994. Agent Upton countered the claim, stating that records showed that he hadn't bought his gun until August 1994. He became more defensive and refused to cooperate, stating that his father was an FBI agent. Agent Upton decided to dig deeper into the young man. He found that Andy had pawned his AR-15 rifle at a gun store 5 months before the murders. He'd also gotten a 9mm Ruger handgun from the same store in December that year, aided by an acquaintance. Records showed that Andy had sold it to his friend in July 1995. Further investigations revealed that Andy Cook had also owned a blue CRX Honda around the time of the murders. Just before the call with Agent Upton, Andy had been talking to his co-worker about the worst things they'd ever done. He said he had killed someone with an AR-15 rifle. His reason: "I wanted to see if I could do it and get away with it." Notably, he had been chewing tobacco as they had this conversation. Agent Upton was unable to reach Andy, so he called his father, John Cook, on December 4, 1996. John was an FBI agent who had worked with the Bureau for 29 years. He told the father that he wanted to question his son about the Lake Juliette murders and requested his assistance. Although John did not think his son was involved, he paged him multiple times until Andy returned his call that night. Andy refused to say anything to him about it at first. "Daddy, I can't tell you you're one of them. You're a cop," he said. John assured his son that he was first his father and convinced him to speak up. To him, his son was probably just a witness to the crime. Andy admitted being at the crime scene and eventually that he had shot both people. His story was that he had been fishing at the lake when he got into an argument with Grant, who then allegedly threatened him with a gun. He said he only shot Grant in self-defense. He soon realized that the gun that was used to threaten him was a pellet gun, which he threw into the woods before fleeing. John could not believe his ears. He talked to his wife and friend Tom Benson, and they all agreed that he would visit the Monroe County Sheriff John Biddick the following day to divulge all he had heard. Andy was arrested shortly after, this time for game violations in Jones County. Agent Upton, who had not heard John's story at this time, headed there to speak with him. Andy claimed that he was being framed and refused to admit to the crime. He was taken to Monroe County. There, John spoke privately with his son and convinced him to tell the truth. This time, Andy said that there was no pellet gun or threat from either victim. "I pulled in. The car was already there and I just stopped and shot them," he confessed. He also said he had dragged the woman from the car to mimic an assault or robbery. Andy's guns were retrieved from their new owners, and ballistics testing confirmed that they were the murder weapons. His DNA also matched that found at the crime scene. He was arrested and indicted for 2 counts of malice murder, 2 counts of felony murder, and 1 count of armed robbery in February 1997. John Cook testified at his son's trial the following month, and a jury found him guilty. Andy was given the death sentence for the murder of Michele Cartegena and a consecutive life sentence for the murder of Grant Hendrickson. He was executed by lethal injection on Thursday, February 21, 2013. If you enjoyed this true crime video, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Also, turn that notification bell on for future content from this channel. We appreciate your support, and as always, thanks for watching True Crimes of the Dirty South.